What do you think of the new assisted dying bill here in the UK?
I'm booked in next week, mucker. This country is a fucking shithole.
That is funny for a second. It's really not. But look at what's happening in Canada. This isn't funny at all.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Imagine your son or daughter battling depression for some time after losing a job or maybe a broken relationship. Imagine they feel the loss so deep that they're convinced the world would be better off without them. Now imagine this. Starting in March 2027, under Canadian law, they could walk into a doctor's office and ask them to end their life. And under our law, the system could legally do just that. Our society could end his or her life for solely a mental health challenge. That's not a future scenario. That's the law right now waiting to take effect. The Liberal government has already had to delay this law twice. Why? Because medical experts and legal scholars have raised the alarm again and again, saying it's impossible to implement safely. Clinical experts have warned that there's no evidence-based way to determine if someone with a mental illness would get better, and most do. But still, the government is moving forward. And the message it sends? That struggling Canadians, trauma survivors, battling depression...
Order. I'll interrupt the member briefly. The Honourable Chief Government Whip on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member seems to be giving a speech on the subject matter of the bill she's introducing. The point of this is to introduce the bill and give a quick summary of the bill. She hasn't even mentioned the bill yet or what is in it.
Under this Liberal government, persons who suffer from mental illness will soon be able to have their lives terminated by Canada's MAID regime. You heard that, right? Medical assistance in dying for mental illness. We're talking about conditions such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, and personality disorders. Effective March 2027, for these and other similar conditions, death will be offered as a treatment option. The Liberals are planning to move ahead with MAID for mental illness despite the overwhelming body of evidence indicating that it's reckless, dangerous, and will prematurely end the lives of persons who could have gotten better. Medical experts, including leading psychiatrists, have been sounding the alarm about this planned expansion for years. Among the many concerns raised are two key problems. First, it is difficult, if not impossible, to predict irremediability. In other words, it is difficult, if not impossible, to determine whether someone suffering from mental illness will get better. Even the Liberal government's so-called expert panel acknowledged this problem. In fact, evidence suggests that predictions on irremediability are wrong over half the time. Accordingly, you would be better off flipping a coin to get it right. And yet, here we are with this planned expansion of MAID for mental illness, literally gambling with people's lives. The second key problem is that in cases of mental illness, it is difficult for clinicians to distinguish between a rational request for MAID and one motivated by suicidal ideation. This is underscored by the fact that 90% of persons who commit suicide have a diagnosable mental disorder. It is these two problems that forced the Liberal government to introduce emergency legislation to delay MAID for mental illness, not once, but twice. MAID for mental illness was originally scheduled to take effect in March 2023. In the lead up to that date, the chairs of psychiatry at all 17 medical schools in Canada called on the Liberals to put a pause on MAID for mental illness, citing these two problems. As a result, in February 2023, just 1 month before MAID for mental illness was set to take effect, the Liberals introduced 11th hour legislation to delay this expansion by 1 year until March 2024. In the lead up to March 2024, it was evident that nothing had changed. These two problems, accurately predicting irremediability and determining that a MAID request is rational and not motivated by suicidal ideation, had not been resolved. So, in February 2024, 1 month before MAID for mental illness was set to take effect, the Liberals again introduced 11th hour legislation to delay MAID for mental illness, this time for 3 years until March 2027. This March 2027 deadline is now fast approaching, and there is no evidence that these two key clinical problems have been resolved, or, for that matter, can be resolved. So what is the Liberal government's plan? Another emergency delay? Or are they actually prepared to move ahead with this and gamble with the lives of Canadians who suffer from mental illness? In the face of all of the evidence, there is only one responsible course of action to take, and that is to permanently scrap this radical and dangerous expansion of MAID. My Conservative colleague, MP Tamara Jensen, has given the Liberal government an off-ramp to do just that. MP Jensen has introduced legislation, Bill C-218, that would repeal planned expansion of MAID for mental illness. This common-sense legislation will be debated and voted on in the coming months. The good news is that it actually has a chance of passing. There are several Liberal MPs who are already on record opposing the Liberal government's expansion of MAID for mental illness, and there are many more Liberal MPs who quietly have concerns about this planned expansion. So now is the time to ramp up the pressure. Contact your MP, especially if your MP is a Liberal, and tell them to support Bill C-218. Tell them that those struggling with mental illness deserve support and treatment, not death. Tell them that recovery is possible, and that we should never give up on persons struggling with their mental health.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
I'm Andrew Lawton, the Conservative Member of Parliament for Elgin St. Thomas, London South. This is a deeply personal message. It's one I almost wasn't here to share with you. 15 years ago, I almost lost my life to suicide. It wasn't my first suicide attempt, but it was by far the most serious. I intentionally overdosed on several medications and ended up on life support and in a coma for several weeks. This wasn't a cry for help. I wanted to die. Under changes coming into effect in 2027 to Canada's assisted dying laws, otherwise known as MAID, someone going through what I was going through 15 years ago would be able to get a doctor to help them end their life. Someone suffering only from a mental illness with no physical health issues whatsoever will be able to access MAID. Simply put, if the law on the books now were there 15 years ago, I'd probably be dead right now. What I went through didn't happen overnight. Through much of my teenage years and into my early 20s, I battled severe depression. I would have good days and bad days, but I started to have more and more bad days. At a certain point, I couldn't take it anymore. I made a plan to end my life once and for all. This wasn't a rash or impulsive decision. I scheduled it weeks out. Those closest to me had no idea what I was going through. I did have a support system I could have leaned on. I had plenty of opportunities to change my mind or seek help, but I didn't. I was that committed. I was that stubborn. In my story and those of countless others, the desire to end my life was a symptom of my mental illness. So how could ending my life be the answer to what I was going through? Simply put, it couldn't. We need to make sure that someone who's struggling is given the help and support they need to not want to end their life. I'm proud to stand behind Bill C-218, a private member's bill tabled by my colleague Tamara Jensen. If passed, this bill will ensure mental illness can't be used as justification for someone to end their life with MAID. I wanted to die because I thought I had no future. I had no hope that I could be happy. And boy, was I wrong. I got better. It wasn't easy, but I did. I built a future I never thought was possible, and it wouldn't have been possible had I succeeded in ending my life. By its very nature, mental illnesses change the way you think. Being a smart person and a rational thinker can be even more dangerous as you convince yourself that suicide is a sensible or logical course of action. But it isn't, because it's based on an inherently flawed belief that what you're experiencing can never get better. We can't give up on each other. The pain that mental illness causes is real, and it is hard, but it isn't permanent. Bill C-218 is about ensuring we keep hope alive for people struggling with mental illness, that we give them a right to recover. I got better, and others can too.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody who gets public money.
Okay,
right?
So any company that gets public money.
Anywhere, well, it's a public healthcare system. Okay. Everybody gets public money.
So everyone's
right.
on it.
Everybody's getting public money. Right?
So it's everybody.
It's everybody.
Wow.
So we did have a public-private partnership with the Fraser Health Authority.
Okay.
And we were told in our hospice, so I became the president of the Delta Hospice Society, and we were told because we had a hospice that we operated, a facility that we actually built. We fundraised $8 million, we built it. We got a land lease for 35 years, we built those buildings on it. We were told that if we want money, we're gonna have to start killing our patients. And we said, well, we're not killing our patients. We're palliative care, we don't do that.
Right. The whole point is to just ease the suffering as they go through this experience.
Live well.
Life, yeah.
Until your natural end, which
Right.
we can help you with.
Yeah.
Right? And so they said, well, you're not getting any more money. And we said, that's fine. We don't want your money and we don't need your money.
Wow, okay.
Right? So we're sitting on this land with our buildings, so we had 25 years left on that land lease. So as soon as we started to resist and be defiant, not get into lockstep, they canceled that lease with 25 years left.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
They evicted us from our buildings, took our money away, and basically took our facility from us, kicked us off the land, and expropriated those buildings, $8.5 million worth, to the government. So the government walked in, started to operate our hospice with us gone, and provide euthanasia there.
That is absolutely outrageous, and it does fit into this model we're seeing where they will shut down a bank account. They go against the lease that's been signed. What good is a lease if it doesn't, protect the property and you've invested that funding and money into knowing you're going to be there for a period of time, and all just because you're like, we're not going to offer death as one of the options in our hospice.
That's right. So you are now compelled. You see, and this kind of MAID, right, is conquest and then compel. That's the dance. That's the modus operandi that they're using, and that's going to be facilitated by the court system, by the judiciary.
Yeah.
Right? And all of our courts and our judges are appointed in Canada, appointed by the government.
Yeah. And so the government is controlling the whole thing. And where does the media come into this? Why is the media not pushing back? I know here we have pharmaceutical control of our media, so we'd be kind of screwed here, but you don't have that in Canada.
No, we have government control of our media. The government gives the media billions of dollars. So basically it's, I joke, kind of not really, that is like Soviet-style Pravda.
Yeah.
That's our media.
So none of the television stations, they all get government funding?
They all get money, but particularly the CBC.
Yeah.
That's the state media outlet, and they get money. Right? And of course, we have never been able to get our message onto the legacy media, into the mainstream media. It's all very pro-MAID. So people don't really even know how bad it is out there.
Oh, yeah. That's it, gang. So we'll wrap up right there. Aaron, Canadian Looney, thank you very much for watching. We're trying to show Canadians what I'm learning and what I base my opinions on. Most of the time we cover Parliament, but when they're not in session, what are you gonna do? We cover the news. That's it. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you'd like to learn more about Canadian federal politics, hit that subscribe, get notified. We do live shows, especially when everything is in session. Anyhow, Aaron, Canadian Looney, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
How many kids did you molest Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows. These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Anyhow, what are you gonna do? Trying to keep you informed. Aaron, Canadian Looney, trying to hit 30,000 subs. Help me get there. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Later, gang.
I'm Andrew Lawton, the Conservative Member of Parliament for Elgin St. Thomas, London South. This is